I never thought I'd be the one to pull the trigger on my own blood. But there I was, staring down the barrel of betrayal in the dusty heart of West Texas. My name's Jack Harlan, and for over a decade, I'd been the quiet force holding together Harlan Energy, our family's oil and gas outfit sprawled across the Permian Basin. It wasn't just pipes and pumps, it was a web of leases, drilling rights, and regulatory handshakes that kept the black gold flowing from beneath the parched earth. My grandfather started it with nothing but a wildcat well and a prayer. And my father built it into something that put food on tables from Odessa to Midland.
Me?
I was the architect behind the scenes, the one who navigated the EPA regs, the land contracts, and the seismic data that decided where we'd strike next. It all started unraveling when my cousin, Travis Harlan, fresh off an MBA from some Ivy League school back east, waltzed into the main office like he was God's gift to hydrocarbons. He was my uncle's boy, always the golden child with his slick talk and PowerPoint dreams. Jack, he said that first day, not even bothering to shake my hand, we're modernizing. These old land deeds and handshake deals, they're dinosaurs. We'll digitize everything by quarter's end. I set down my coffee mug, the steam curling up like the tension in my gut. 11 years I'd poured into this company, mapping every acre, negotiating with ranchers who'd sooner shoot you than sell mineral rights. But Travis? He saw spreadsheets, not stories. Not the families we'd kept afloat through busts, or the environmental safeguards I'd baked in to avoid fines that could sink us. I didn't argue then. What was the point? Family drama in these parts usually simmered under the surface, like a slow leak in a pipeline. But I knew the truth. Harlan Energy didn't run on fancy apps or venture capital buzz. It ran on trust in the land titles I'd secured, the subsurface rights I'd licensed, and the clauses I'd woven into every contract since we absorbed my small surveying firm back in 2014. Those weren't just legalese, they were my insurance policy. Section 4.2c, buried in the fine print of our family merger agreement, made it crystal clear any shift in operational control required a 60-day notice and mutual consent. Or the core assets, drilling maps, lease portfolios, and regulatory approvals reverted to custodial lockdown. It was my brainchild, designed to protect against outsiders.
But now?
It felt like a loaded gun aimed at kin. Travis pushed hard from the get-go. He called meetings in our weathered boardroom, the one with faded photos of roughnecks on the walls, and tossed around terms like synergistic optimization and asset realignment. The younger folks nodded along, my niece Sarah, fresh out of college, and a couple of engineers who'd never seen a dry hole. But I saw the cracks. He started probing the old files, sending his assistant,
Mia,
to dig through my office drawers. Just auditing for efficiencies, she said with a tight smile. Efficiencies? My ass. They were sniffing for weaknesses, ways to sideline me and claim the empire as their own. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the mesquite scrub, Travis cornered me by the water cooler. Your methods are holding us back,
Jack.
We're rerouting ops through central command. More transparency, less silos. His voice had that edge, like he was practicing for a TED Talk. I kept calm, leaning against the wall. You reviewed the custodial terms?
Right?
The ones from the merger? He waved it off. Legal's on it. This is progress. But I knew better. Legal hadn't touched those docs in years. They were my domain. Notarized and filed away in a safe deposit box in Lubbock. That clause wasn't just words. It was a safeguard against exactly this, a hotshot trying to erase the old guard without due process. The hammer fell on a scorching Friday afternoon. I walked into the office to find Travis waiting, his laptop open like a judgment book. "You're out. Effective immediately," he said flatly, sliding a termination notice across the desk. No family chat. No thanks for the sweat equity. Just a cold stare from the man I'd helped raise after his dad passed. The room spun a bit, the AC humming. The distant rumble of a pump jack outside. My sister,
Ellen.
our CFO, averted her eyes. She'd always been the peacemaker. But blood ties only go so far when dollars are involved.
I didn't yell. Instead,
I placed an envelope on the desk, thick with copies of the merger agreement, highlighted in yellow. "Those assets aren't yours to seize," I said quietly. Then I unclipped my company badge and walked out, the screen door slamming behind me like a punctuation mark. The West Texas wind whipped up dust as I climbed into my pickup. But inside, a storm was brewing. They'd triggered the clause without knowing it. Number 60-day transition meant lockdown, access to the lease database, drilling cords, and compliance logs would freeze in 10 business days unless they initiated a buyout or reinstatement. Penalties? $12 million base, plus $50,000 daily after day 5. It wasn't sabotage, it was the law. Clear as a court order in these parts. By Monday, the ripples hit. A routine permit renewal for our biggest field stalled because the system flagged unauthorized access. Travis probably thought it was a glitch. But it was the protocol kicking in my protocol. Vendors started calling. Roughnecks from Halliburton. Landmen we'd partnered with for years. "Where's Jack? We need his sign-off on the seismic data." Without it, rigs sat idle, costing thousands by the hour. I stayed home that week, nursing a beer on my porch overlooking the endless flats, watching the pump jacks nod like metronomes. This wasn't about revenge, it was about respect. The kind earned through dirt under your nails, not a diploma on the wall. Ellen showed up at my door that evening, her face etched with worry. "Jack, what have you done?" The board's freaking out. I invited her in, poured her coffee. "I didn't do anything." They did, by not reading the fine print. We talked for hours. The first real conversation in years. She admitted Travis had pushed too hard, blinded by ambition. But family? It cuts deep. As she left, I felt the first twinge of doubt. Was locking them out worth fracturing what was left of us? The next few days blurred into a haze of phone calls and frantic emails filtering through my lawyer. Harlan Energy was scrambling, but pride kept them from admitting defeat outright. Travis, ever the bulldog, rallied the team with memos about temporary realignments and enhanced protocols. But out in the fields, reality bit hard. One of our key leases in the Strawberry Trend, a gold mine of shale we'd fracked successfully for years, hit a snag when the Bureau of Land Management queried the chain of custody on our permits. Without my custodial override, the paperwork looped in limbo, halting operations. That alone cost $200,000 in downtime, not counting the crew twiddling thumbs. I drove out to the old homestead that afternoon, the one Grandpa Harlan had built with his bare hands back in the 50s. The wooden fence sagged under the relentless sun, and the windmill creaked like an old man's bones. Sitting there, I remembered summers learning the ropes from Dad, how to read a topo map, negotiate with stubborn ranchers, spot the signs of a gusher. Travis never got that education. He was off at boarding school, groomed for boardrooms, not oil patches. Maybe that's where the rift started. But as I traced the faded Harlan brand on the gate, a pang hit me. This wasn't just business, it was legacy. Locking them out felt like justice. But at what price? My phone buzzed, an unknown number.
It was Mia,
Travis's assistant, sounding breathless. "Mr. Harlan,
please."
Things are falling apart. Can we talk? I hesitated. Not without my lawyer. But her voice cracked, reminding me she was just a kid caught in the crossfire. Later, my attorney relayed their offer. Reinstatement with a title bump. No questions asked. I turned it down. Not out of spite, but because trust, once shattered, doesn't weld back easy in these wide-open spaces. By day 4, the penalties kicked in. Vendors pulled back. Our fracking fluid supplier cited compliance risks, delaying a well completion. The board called an emergency meeting in our Midland HQ, the glass building that screamed success amid the scrubland. I wasn't there, of course, but Ellen filled me in later. Travis paced like a caged coyote, blaming legacy glitches. The SO, an old-timer named Buck, shot him down. This ain't a glitch.
Son.
It's a goddamn clause you ignored. Whispers spread through the industry forums, oil and gas journal chats, LinkedIn groups for Permian pros. Heard Harlan's locked out their own kin. Careful with those family firms. That night, I couldn't sleep. The stars over West Texas are something else, vast, unyielding, making you feel small. I thought about Mom, gone 5 years now, how she'd always preached forgiveness as the ultimate strength. Revenge poisons the well, Jack, she'd say. But this, it was legal.
Clean.
Still, the human cost gnawed at me. Sarah, my niece, texted, Uncle Jack, please fix this. Dad's a mess. Travis was her father?
No.
Wait, Travis was my cousin. Sarah's sister?
No.
Let's clarify, Sarah was Ellen's daughter, my niece. But the drama rippled to her, in turning in ops, watching her future crumble. I met Ellen at a roadside diner the next morning, the kind with vinyl booths and endless coffee refills. She looked worn, the lines around her eyes deeper than the canyons in Big Bend. Jack, the buyouts are only out. But $12 million? It'll gut reserves. I nodded, stirring my mug. That's the clause. But maybe. We negotiate. For the first time, I saw a path beyond payback. Not full surrender, but a humane pivot. We talked details, reinstate me as consultant, share the lessons learned. As we parted, a weight lifted, like rain after drought. Meanwhile, Travis doubled down. He hired hotshot consultants from Houston, promising a workaround. They poked at the system for hours. But my architecture was Fort Knox, encrypted databases, rolling keys tied to my biometrics, and that irrevocable custodial lock. One glitch led to another, a seismic report misfiled, triggering an OSHA audit. Costs piled up.
Morale tanked. Buck.
The SO reached out personally. Jack.
Boy.
Let's bury the hatchet. This family's bled enough oil. His voice carried the gravel of decades in the field, reminding me of Dad. I agreed to a mediated call. Travis was there, subdued for once. I screwed up, he admitted, the words tasting like vinegar. Thought I could streamline without you. I leaned back in my chair. It's not about streamlining. It's about roots, the land, the people. You can't erase that with an app. We hashed it out. I'd release partial access for a phased transition. No full buyout if they committed to environmental upgrades I'd always pushed for. It wasn't victory. It was compromise. The Western way, tough but fair. As the sun set that day, painting the horizon in fiery oranges, I felt the shift. Revenge had its pull, but mercy, that built bridges. Little did I know, the real test was coming. One that would force me to confront if family bonds could truly mend. The transition kicked off slowly, like a well easing into production. I returned to the office part-time, not as the boss, but as the guide, showing Travis the nuances he'd overlooked. See this lease from 08? I pointed to a faded map on my desk. That rancher, Old Man Wilkins, only signed because I promised we'd restore his grazing land post-drill. It's not just paper, it's a promise. Travis nodded. His usual swagger dialed back.
For the first time,
He listened, asking questions instead of dictating. It felt awkward, like two bulls in a pen learning not to charge. But drama doesn't fade easy in family ops. Rumors swirled, competitors sniffing around our vulnerabilities, eyeing a takeover. One evening, as thunderheads built over the basin, Ellen confided in me. Jack, there's a whistleblower. Someone's leaking our lockdown data to Apache Energy. My blood ran cold. Apache was our rival, hungry for our prime acres. If they got wind of the claw's chaos, they could undercut us in bids. Who? I asked. She shook her head. Suspect it's internal. Morale's low.
I dove.
My detective instincts firing up, the same ones that had spotted bad strata in seismic reads. Quietly, I audited logs, cross-referencing access attempts during the lockdown. It pointed to Mia, Travis's assistant, but that didn't sit right. She was loyal, or so I thought. Confronting her in the break room, her eyes darted. It wasn't me, Mr.
Harlan. But
I saw Sarah downloading files. Sarah? My niece? The betrayal stung sharper than a scorpion. I pulled Sarah aside after hours. The office empty save for the hum of servers. Why? Her tears came fast. Dad, Travis, pushed me. Said it was just backups. But I overheard him on the phone with Apache. The pieces clicked. Travis, desperate to save face during the crisis, had floated intel for a potential merger. It wasn't malice toward me, it was panic. The kind that blinds you in a dust storm. He thought it'd force a quick resolution, she sobbed. Family secrets, buried deep as our wells. Confronting Travis at his house that night, the air thick with tension. His wife, my cousin-in-law, excused herself, leaving us on the porch under a canopy of stars. You leaked to Apache? I demanded. He deflated, rubbing his temples. I was drowning.
Jack.
The penalties. I thought a buy-in could bail us. His voice cracked, revealing the boy beneath the bravado, the one who'd lost his dad young. Always chasing approval. I never meant to hurt the family. In that moment, the revenge I'd savored turned bitter. This wasn't a villain, it was a man flawed. Like me.
Vi talker till dawn.
Hashing out the mess. No cops. Family handles its own in these parts.
Instead,
we looped in the board. Presented it as an internal audit glitch. Travis stepped back from ops, taking a sabbatical to realign priorities. I guided Sarah through the fallout, teaching her the ethics I'd learned the hard way. Integrity's your best tool, I told her. Lose that, and the ground crumbles. As weeks passed, Harlan Energy stabilized. We implemented my upgrades, better land restoration, community funds for affected ranchers. Vendors returned, impressed by the transparency. But the real win? Bonds mending. Ellen hosted a family barbecue at the homestead, the first in years. Laughter echoed over grilled steaks, kids running through the sagebrush. Travis pulled me aside. Thanks for not burning it all down. I clapped his shoulder. We're Harlans. We build, not break. Yet, a shadow lingered. Apache didn't back off entirely. Whispers of a hostile bid surfaced. It forced me to dig deeper, uncovering old family deeds with hidden clauses, Grandpa's safeguards against claim jumpers. As I pored over them in my study, the phone rang.
Buck.
The COO. Jack. We got a problem. EPA's auditing our frac sites, says violations from the lockdown delays. My heart sank. This could be the end. Fines crippling us. But in the docs, I found a loophole. Community impact statements I'd filed years ago, proving our eco-commitments. The hearing in Austin was tense, suits clashing with our boots and jeans crew. I testified, laying out the clause, the lockdown, the lessons. We stumbled, but we're stronger for it, committed to the land and folks who depend on it. The panel nodded. Penalties were light. A slap on the wrist. Back home, relief washed over us like a gully washer. Through it all, I reflected on the humanity in the chaos. Revenge tempts, but forgiveness heals. The light lesson? Read the fine print, not just in contracts, but in people. Understand their fears, their drives. In the West, survival's about adaptation, not domination. With the EPA storm past, Harlan Energy entered a fragile rebirth. I took on a mentorship role, training Sarah in the intricacies of land law and seismic ethics. It's not about owning the earth, I told her one morning in the field, the drill rig thundering nearby. It's stewarding it. She absorbed it, her youthful energy a balm to the scars. Travis returned after his break, humbled, focusing on community outreach, visiting ranches, mending fences literal and figurative. It wasn't perfect. Tension simmered. But we communicated, the drama evolving into dialogue. One crisp fall day, as cottonwoods turned gold along the Pecos River, a bigger threat emerged. Apache Energy filed a formal bid, citing our recent instabilities as leverage. The board panicked, stock dipped. Whispers of sellout grew.
Ellen confided.
They want our core leases. If we fight, it could drag in court for years. I knew the play. Corporate raiders preying on family fishers. But I had an ace, those old deeds from Grandpa, with reversion clauses if the company strayed from familial stewardship. I rallied the family in the boardroom. Maps spread like a war plan. We don't sell. We evolve. Travis, surprisingly, backed me. Jack's right. Let's hybridize, partner with green tech for renewables. It was his idea, born from reflection. We pitched it to investors, solar atop old fields, wind turbines on marginal land. Vendors loved it. Even Apache paused, intrigued by potential collaboration. The negotiations were grueling, days blurring in conference calls and red-eye flights to Dallas. Tensions flared. Travis and I clashed over terms. Old wounds reopening. You still don't trust me, he snapped once. I met his gaze. Trust is earned.
Cousin.
But I'm trying. In the end, we struck a joint venture. Apache got minority stakes. We retained control, with mandates for sustainable practices. It wasn't defeat, it was growth. The humane pivot I'd sought. Personally, it forced introspection. Evenings on my porch, I'd ponder the cost of that initial lockdown. Had I been too rigid? Mom's words echoed, forgiveness as strength. I reached out to Mia, apologizing for the suspicion. You were caught in the middle. She smiled,
Relieved.
small acts.
But they rebuilt the web.
Sarah thrived, leading a youth program for local kids on energy careers. Thanks to you, Uncle, she said at a family dinner.
Ellen beamed.
The table alive with stories, not of feuds, but futures. Travis shared his struggles openly. Ambition blinded me. Lesson learned, family first. As winter set in, snow dusting the rigs like sugar, peace settled. The company prospered. Profits up 15% from eco-innovations. I stepped back gradually, consulting from afar, finding joy in simple things, fishing the Rio Grande, mentoring at community colleges. The light lesson crystallized in the vast West, where horizons stretch endless. So, do second chances. Hold grudges, and you wither like drought-struck land. Extend grace, and you flourish. It wasn't preachy, just truth, etched in the red dirt of home. But life twists like a sidewinder. One spring morning, a letter arrived, anonymous, postmarked Houston. The clause wasn't the only secret. Check Grandpa's will. My pulse quickened. Digging through attic boxes, I found it, a codicil, hidden for decades, naming me sole custodian of untapped reserves in the Delaware Basin.
Worth million.
But with a stipulation, share equitably or forfeit. Confronting the family, emotions surged. Why hide this? Ellen admitted knowing vaguely. Travis paled. Another test. We debated heatedly, but chose unity. Divide shares. Fund scholarships for Basin kids. It bonded us deeper, turning potential drama into legacy. In the end, Mercy rewrote our story, not as conquerors, but as kin, resilient under the big sky. The revelation of Grandpa's codicil rippled through us like aftershocks from a frack job, but this time, we absorbed it together. We gathered at the homestead, the old house creaking under the weight of history. He wanted us to earn it, I said, unfolding the yellowed paper. Travis traced the signature. Smart old coot. Forced us to grow, Sarah suggested. Use it for good, scholarships, land trusts.
Ellen nodded.
Tears in her eyes. Mom would be proud. We formed a family trust, allocating the reserve's proceeds to sustainable projects, restoring aquifers depleted by drilling, funding tech for cleaner extraction. It wasn't flashy, but it humanized our empire, drawing praise from locals who'd long eyed us warily. Apache backed off fully, impressed by our pivot. Our story even hit the local papers. Harlan clan turns turmoil to triumph.
Personally,
I found closure. Driving the backroads, past nodding pumpjacks and blooming yucca, I reflected on the journey. The lockdown? A necessary jolt, but the real power lay in release. I'd locked them out to teach control's illusion. Mercy unlocked potential. Travis and I bonded over beers, sharing regrets. I was a fool, he admitted. You saved us from ourselves. I chuckled. We saved each other. Sarah's program flourished. Kids from Odessa high schools touring sites, learning stewardship. One boy, reminiscent of young me, asked, how do you fix family fights? I paused. With time, talk, and a little grace. The light lesson, woven subtly. As years passed, wait. No, this is the wrap-up. But let's ground it. By 2025, Harlan Energy led in green oil. Our model copied basin-wide. I retired to consulting, penning a memoir on family biz pitfalls, emphasizing humanity over hubris. The final twist came at a reunion barbecue. Smoke rising from the pit, laughter echoing. Ellen raised a toast. To Jack for locking us out, then letting us in. We clinked bottles under the stars. The West's vastness a reminder. Life's not about winning feuds, but weaving stronger ties. In the end, our drama taught gently. Read the signs in contracts, in hearts. Forgive. Adapt.
Thrive.
That's the American West way, rugged, redemptive, real.